Now the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Geraghty.
And welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch, along with Jim Geraghty of National Review, who is back from his trip to the Pacific Northwest. If you've been following along on the Campaign Spot and the Morning Jolt and elsewhere, I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. We've got good, bad, and crazy martinis for you today, as usual. And, Jim, if the midterm elections really go well for Republicans this year, I think one of our postseason awards needs to go to that reporter from the Louisville Courier-Journal who asked Allison Grimes if she voted for Barack Obama, because it's turned into a viral question for Democrats who want nothing to do with him, at least until Election Day, all across the many battleground states. It came up in a debate last night in New Hampshire, and it was asked of Jeanne Shaheen. Here's how that went.
Senator Shaheen, imagine you are at home wearing your New Hampshire citizen hat, and you get a call from a pollster asking the following question. Do you approve of the job President Obama is doing? Now, there'll be a chance to follow up, but this is a yes or no answer. Do you approve, yes or no?
In some ways I approve, and some things I don't approve.
They don't have that check on the...
Like most questions that we deal with as policymakers, there aren't simple answers, yes or no.
Interesting that she went on to say, when the reporter said, well, you voted with him 99% of the time, his approval rating is between 38 and 40 in the state, so you claim to represent the people of New Hampshire. How do you square that? And she says, well, I helped to get a prison reopened.
Yeah, that's a big difference there. It's been fascinating, and I sympathize slightly with her answer. And I guess maybe if you're going to give the, well, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't kind of answer, it's probably best to say, I support his efforts to fight ISIS or something, and I disagree with him somewhere else. So figure out where you agree strongest, disagree strongest, and get that in your answer as quickly as possible. Or you can even say, I really like what he was doing in his first term, but I think he's lost his way. There's all kinds of ways you can answer that to not come across as, well, I need all the, to the Democrats in the audience, yes. To the independents and the Republicans in the audience, no, is basically the answer she wants to give there. It's kind of fascinating. I wonder, I guess they didn't bother with the, did you vote for Barack Obama? And Obama carried New Hampshire, so we shouldn't expect her to be quite so terrified of answering that particular question. But it's kind of fascinating to see that even there, she's a little frightened to kind of directly tie herself to the president and say, yeah, he's my guy, I'm back him, and I'm proud of my voting record with him.
All right, on to the bad martini now, and this is certainly bad. U.S. military officials, according to Fox News, say they are investigating claims that Islamic State fighters seized a cache of weapons that were airdropped by U.S.-led coalition forces and meant for Kurdish militiamen. A video uploaded by a media group loyal to the Islamic State showed a cache of weapons including hand grenades, ammunition, and rocket-propelled grenade launchers. Their claims would appear to correspond with those of the Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which said the militants had seized at least one cache. If it is true, basically what we're saying is it's more of an embarrassment than a tactical advantage, because the weapons in this particular cache weren't all that sophisticated. But, Jim, it still appears there's some rough edges to smooth out here when the enemies are getting the weapons our allies are supposed to get.
Yeah, the war against ISIS is going great with just two little catches. One, we're delivering the weapons to the wrong people and giving them to the bad guys. And the other thing, but the good news is, there's a silver lining, we're only giving small guns. So even if it had gotten to the good guys, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference. So everyone in America, this is what happens when you fight a war attempting to not really make that big an impact. Heavens forbid you escalate a fight with somebody, with a group that is beheading Americans and pledging to kill all of us. We want to go. Got to stay proportional, right, Greg?
I guess so. On to the crazy martini now, and somebody we're really going to miss come next year is Oklahoma Senator Tom Coburn. He's leaving, unfortunately, before his term is up. We're confident James Lankford will be a pretty good senator, but Tom Coburn is a special breed, and one of the things we're going to miss is his annual government waste book. Here's the Washington Times report on the most recent one, which was just released. More than a dozen lucky rabbits were given Swedish massages 4 times a day, courtesy of U.S. taxpayers, as part of a study to figure out whether massage can help recovery times after strenuous exercise, a practice Tom Coburn says makes a mockery of federal spending. The rabbit massages are one of the 100 wasteful products Mr. Coburn identified in his latest edition of the Waste Book. Other highlights included the National Science Foundation's paying academics to teach monkeys to gamble, government sponsorship of a children's play about brain-eating zombies, and a first-person combat shooting video game the Army developed, but which intelligence officials fear terrorists could use to train their own recruits. Indeed, Hezbollah has adapted the game's design to train suicide martyrs. Jim, that was pretty funny until the last one, but it just shows...
How do you play the suicide bomber game online? Like just steer your guy into a crowd, go, press the button to go kaboom, and is it you win, game over, I guess? That doesn't seem like a terribly challenging video game. Put on suicide vest, walk into crowd. Can walk up to the checkpoint. It's a rather unnerving scenario there. The idea that first-person shooter video games could really give somebody a tactical edge in wartime is kind of baffling. But you're right. We're definitely going to miss Tom Coburn. No shortage of crazy spending. And Coburn is one of those guys who I think just his staff doing the legwork, going out and collecting these examples and trying to make Democrats be held accountable. When they say, oh, government is underfunded, government needs more money. Well, government spends a lot of money on a lot of crap. And it'd be kind of useful to say, hey, if you stop spending money on stuff like that, maybe you have more money for stuff like Ebola vaccine research and all the stuff that you traditionally do. In the Weed Agency and other places, I've talked about the Lincoln Memorial strategy. Whenever you try to cut anything from the budget of the Department of the Interior, the first thing they say is, well, we have to shut down the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, and all these parts of the National Mall. And everyone says, oh, my goodness. So let's remove that 1% cut. And you see this again. The Citizens Against Government Waste does a nice little pig book. The Coburn staff always did another fantastic report, and he will be missed, and hopefully his successor will pick up that baton and keep doing it in future Congresses.
That would be great. Nearly 400,000, by the way, on the rabbit massages, and it turns out, remember that last year was the shrimp on the treadmill? This year it was mountain lions, monkeys, rats, and cows on treadmills. Jim, while you were gone, it was the 4-year anniversary of the Three Martini Lunch. We started just a couple weeks before the 2010 midterm election, so hopefully that portends good things for this year. Last year we looked at the Crazy Martini from our very first episode, and it was the guy running for governor of New York that year who said the rent was too damn high. This year we take a look at just how much things have changed over 3 years. This is from our 2011 show from our anniversary date. And we were talking about how Virginia Democrats weren't that excited in their statewide elections in 2011 to have President Obama campaign with them. One, because he was unpopular, and two, because Obama was just really using it as a recruit for volunteers for his reelection campaign the next year. But here's the part that followed, and it shows you just how much things have changed. That could bode very well for Virginia, because Republicans are trying to get control of the state Senate to move forward on more of the agenda of Governor Bob McDonnell, who, as we mentioned earlier in the week, has a 69.6% approval rating. So running against the McDonnell agenda, probably not the smartest thing to do in most parts of the state.
Yeah,
but,
as one guy said to me, all of the state legislative ads this year, it looks like Bob McDonnell's running for re-election. He's in it a lot, and he says sometimes you see these other faces pop up every now and then. Right now, Bob McDonnell is the good housekeeping seal of approval in a lot of parts of Virginia.
It was true then.
Greg,
it was true then. That looked terrible in hindsight, but we didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. It just shows how fast a star falls.
Man, Bob McDonnell is just a gift to the other lawmakers in Virginia. Yeah. I see that this is what happens when I take my wife out for an anniversary trip and not you, Greg.
we were both wrong. I wasn't doing that to humiliate you, just to see. We were thinking Bob McDonnell as VP material in 2012.
We were young and naive then, Greg. And, it's fascinating to see how much our voices have changed in just 3 years. You can really hear the cynicism in them now. So. Anyway, happy anniversary, Greg. It's been a fun 4 years. And hopefully we can now start the chant 4 more years as well.
Yes, exactly. Our polls are looking very good for another 4 years. Jim, on that note, happy anniversary, and we'll do it all again tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Geraghty of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today, and be sure to join us again on Thursday for the next Three Martini Lunch.